Hi, it's Sarah, and I just wanted to talk today about when to reach out to your specific person, twin flame, soul connection, um, whatever connection you're dealing with or label you want to put onto it. Um, we I think on this journey, there's a point for all of us where we have no communication without significant the person that we have a massive connection to. There's no communication, no contact. Um, and I think there's probably a time when nearly everybody has done some chasing as well and reached out and got negative results or got ignored or just not the reaction that they were wanting. And sometimes you actually feel, you know, like you have an okay energy when you send it. Um, So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about reaching out. So, I mean, my current connection, which did work out into a relationship, um, but had a period of no contact. In the period of no contact, I did not contact. I just manifested. Um, Even though the door was always open for me to contact, actually, and it wasn't like, in some of my early awakening connections where there was just like no door to connect. A lot of it does depend on your belief system, firstly. So, if your belief system is that no contact is going to get people to contact you, then no contact will work. So, first and foremost, it's about playing into what's your natural belief as to what happens. Like, for me, it was much easier for me to believe that no contact would create the exact desired outcome that I wanted than being a friend or staying in contact or messaging. In my personal belief system, that wasn't how I was going to get the result that I wanted. So I think it's always important to know what your personal belief system is on getting into a relationship and contact and working with that and using it to help you rather than it working against you. So, if you believe that you can be a friend and you're going to get closer and you're going to build up together, then, that's going to work for you. The only thing that I will say is that personally, I'm a big believer in these days anyway, in like no contact and just self work. Unless you feel that really, really, really inspired feeling to contact, which I would always act upon if it was really inspired. Because even if you don't get the message you're hoping for, you'll probably work through something within yourself, or you're guided to do it because it's going to help you overcome like a fear of rejection. At the end of the day, the only thing stopping you from having your desire is these like undercurrents of like subconscious patterning that is triggering you and is holding you away. So it's actually best to work through it. So sometimes, you might get that call to message and you don't get the response you want. You'd be like, oh, I didn't get it. I felt really guided to do it. But doing that is, if you do it and you don't get the reaction you wanted, then it's about sitting with that feeling because it's always going to happen. What you want is it's always possible to have. It doesn't matter what happens in the in between. It's still a possibility. If you can think it, you can create it and you can have it. So all these things can only serve as a delay. They can't stop it from happening. So in in the case that you reach out and you don't get the response that you wanted, then it's more about looking at that trigger, doing the mirror work. How do I feel about getting that response? Like, obviously, I wasn't as ready as I thought I was because I still have resistance. Like, anything stopping you from getting what you want is just resistance and it needs to be worked through. And maybe it's rejection wounds, a fear of rejection, a fear of abandonment, a fear of, not a wound of not being a priority. That was a big one of mine. Like, actually, it's something that I still deal with, the priority one. And that shows up, if somebody maybe cancels on you or moves the time of an arrangement, then it's like, ah. But rather than react to the 3D, if you can really do the mirror work, which is just the process of acknowledging the wound and asking what your body needs to feel whatever your wound is. So if it's priority, it's like, what do I need to feel prioritized? And it's just like really energetically just sending love to that part of you that doesn't feel like it's a priority. And actually you can get shifts really, really quickly when you do that. So sometimes when you have a negative reaction to something, it's not that things are going bad, it's just another layer for you to clear, like another layer of resistance, like, oh, I still have, you know, a fear of rejection and it's showing up in my reality and I have to go deeper with it and I have to clear it. So, you know, sometimes you feel pulled because that person that you have the connection with is the best person for you to help clear that wound because it's triggering you a lot. So if you feel truly, truly inspired, then that's the time to reach out. But I think a lot of the time, inspiration is just like that wound pulling, actually. Like when you actually feel inspired, like an inspired feeling that's going to get you a good result is when you're feeling really detached, really happy. Like when the inspiration comes to you, it's a happy, excitable, oh, I just want to see what this person's up to, or I'm going to message them, I'm just going to say hi. You know, if there's any kind of like fear or negative emotions behind it, then you know the chances are that you're not ready to get a good message and or the message that you want. And like I said, it's still okay because you're just going to clear more. But the problem with doing that is then you start to get into this negative cycle of feeling bad about the message. You know, very quickly things can go down, which is why I'm a big believer these days of just taking a lot of time until, you know, I'm a big believer in just not reaching out point blank. And this is what I did in my most recent connection. I even ignored messages that were not what I wanted. Like if they were not 100% what I wanted to hear, I did not even answer them, or I would just send something short and not engage. Like that's how it worked for me, because I knew that if I entered into something before, it's something about the other person, but if I entered into something before I was ready and I was being shown I wasn't ready by the tone and the type of the messages, then I was just going to end up like doing myself more damage than staying away, doing the self-work until the exact situation that I wanted appeared in front of me. And, you know, then I knew that I'd reached that point within me where I was able to manifest my desired outcome. And that's what I did. You know, with past connections, I've gone in there and I've like sort of poked things along and it's never worked out for me. But like I said, if you feel really, really inspired and it's a really joyful feeling and you really feel like there's no fears, then it's okay. You know, it's inspired. Maybe that is what you're supposed to be doing to get things moving. You know, you always have to listen to it if it's truly inspired. But like I said, a lot of the time, inspired action is just our wounds wanting to be placated and pulling. So, for example, if you have a rejection wound or an abandonment wound, like that calling that you feel sometimes, and I know because I used to think that, oh, but I felt so guided, but actually it was just my my wounds like wanting to placate the abandonment by getting a message from that person. Because when we have a really strong connection, we tend to try to get from them what we're not getting from ourselves. So if we have an abandonment issue and we haven't healed that and filled that up within, then we're going to constantly try to get that person to not abandon us, because that's, you know, we're trying to fill the wound externally. So a lot of the time that inspired action actually is just us wanting to fill the wound. And like I said, no harm done, because you're just going to claim more resistance and you can still have what you want, but it is going to start to put a lot of negative energy into that connection. And for me, sets me back a lot, because then I've got to get over that new thing, you know, before I can even then start doing more work. Like I just personally think, you know, just keep doing the inner work. And if, you know, you're feeling that pull, I don't believe that pull is like a key to message. That pull is like you're still trying to seek something that you need inside of yourself externally from another person. And if you fill that void up, then actually the feeling of connection will be different. It will be like excitable, it'll be like fun, it'll be like high energy, it'll just be really looking forward to communicating with them and wanting to hear from them. It won't, there won't be all of that like fear and resistance energy. And you have to be really honest with yourself, because a lot of it is very subconscious. So you can think you've done a lot of work on yourself, and you realize you haven't, which is why I really feel that if you're getting that pulling feeling, that is not necessarily an inspirational feeling. Quite often it's just you, like I said, trying to get something that you need to find in yourself from an external source. And when you filled yourself up and you're not doing that anymore, then it will just be like a light, happy feeling. But yeah, I'm a big personal believer now, and it didn't always used to be like this. The amount of times I reached out, I used to go, so long, and then I wouldn't be able to hold it anymore. And like, I'm not even like that normally, but with these spiritual connections, they were just so intense. Like, I feel like I was going to explode. But actually, the more that I worked through that, the more that I realized in those times, they really were the times to do the healing, to do the inner work, to mirror it, to acknowledge what was coming up. Like, they were not the times when messaging was ever going to get me the result that I wanted, because I was externally trying to fix that pull and fix that situation. Yet when I, in my recent situation, just took the time out to really work on myself and to really like heal everything that came up. Like I said, I got a few messages that weren't exactly what I wanted, so I just didn't engage with them, and then I got exactly what I wanted. And I think it took me that long. It's got the other person has nothing to do with them. Like, it took me that long to be able to allow that connection into my life in that way. And if I'd have done it any sooner, or I'd have been like, yeah, let's be friends or something, then I know for me personally, I would have got more and more annoyed. Like, every message probably would have triggered me. It was not conducive to my manifesting. I know personally I did a lot better by simply holding true to the final vision, the feelings that I wanted to feel by being in that connection in a healthy way. And I just stuck to that until the physical matched the energetic vibration. And I can honestly say, after a few strong soul connections, that's what worked for me. And I've tried many of the other things. So yeah, it just was about just allowing it to show up and manifest by doing the inner work, basically. So yeah, I hope that helps, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.